need to use the ramp that's only on one side.
So, great. I'm actually impressed that you were able to catch that about the COVID-19, about the staff said. So I guess it sounded like you watched most of the meeting
Yes,
on the topic.
I did. And so even when the budget was issues were pushed aside, um, how do you say her name? Dianthe or whatever, it was very clear that she thought this was a library that should be shut down for other reasons, such as the
So
space one.
ridiculous. So completely ridiculous.
Agreed, but one needs to be able to rationally shut down their arguments and not at an emotional level, but to just
Yeah.
make sure that they don't hold water. Also, if you just go on Google and ask for College Terrace Library images, I think that's another place that you can find them.
Okay. Well, no, actually, it's a really good point, and I like that. You know, when I tried to make the motion, so I made the motion on Wednesday night, almost midnight, trying to see if we could get the College Terrace Library off the chopping block. Um, I don't think people were voting against it because of the COVID-19 issue. I think I think it was more because they were not sure how this fit in with all the other budget priorities, and so they weren't ready to support restoring it. Um, but if the topic comes up again, I think you have now really nice photographic evidence of why that shouldn't be a big deal.
Right.
Yes.
That was a procedural issue. And I think the other things that happened is, for example, when I think it was Dubois uh, tried to bring it back in, he coupled it with some other very large budget items that had to do with children's theater
Yeah.
and the arts center. And so then that made it a very large financial topic. And so I think if it could, if it that could have been part of the problem.
Yeah, that's why I made the motion on Wednesday as a separate item. I don't, were you watching at the time? It was really late.
Yes,
It was
I
like
was,
11.
and the reason I think that was given was that they didn't want to handle individual issues. They wanted to handle larger things.
Yeah, yeah. So, anyways, but yeah, that's a good point. It's got it bundled in, so it makes it $1 million item versus a $160,000 item, right?
Right. And then what I would point out is if it does get reopened, it's really critical for people to use that library. And the libraries measure attendance through door opening. So every time you go, open each door, go in and out, go in multiple times. You have to go out to the park, come back in, go back out, go in, go out. And that's critical.
I see. Yeah, I didn't. So they actually have a door counter. They count how many
Yeah,
times.
yes,
Oh, I didn't
that's what they
know.
use to measure the number of visits. So it's important
Okay.
to do that.
Okay.
The other thing is some of the funding, for example, that's being targeted for the children's theater. I think it's important to look at. So I was shocked. I was listening to artistic directors of very large theater festivals, theater organizations like Oregon Shakespeare Festival and Woolly Mammoth in Washington, D.C.
Mhm.
The kinds of plays that they're planning are going to be plays where it's a single person on stage because you cannot have people that close to each other. And then the next plays they're considering that are like a dysfunctional set of four people who can never be in the same space at the same time. So you only have one person on stage at a
I see.
given time. So practically speaking, the children's library, a children's theater, which is part of the budget that wants to get reinstated, might have to re-envision themselves at a different budget point to do virtual things or individual things because it's unless it's maybe it's the same kind of proximity that they have in schools, and so it's okay. But that's a consideration that we may be optimistic about bringing those kinds of activities back.
Wow, Crane, I'm really impressed that you watched so much of the meeting. I didn't think anyone would suffer through all of that. So that's amazing. Thank you. Thank you. I am impressed. Did you have any other thoughts on this like that? So you actually had a couple really interesting thoughts. Any other thoughts about the library or suggestions on trying to?
I assume that they are going after the grants that are available. There's a CARES Act grant for libraries. It's maybe not fitting for our library because it's trying to address communities of disadvantage, although that does include, for example, the low-income housing on El Camino near California Avenue. access, and the deadline for those grants is June 12th.
Mm.
There's $13 million available for this. Actually, I'm sorry, that one's for the Native American libraries. I'm not sure how much there is for the, regular libraries. It's libraries and museums put together. So actually, the Junior Museum could also be looking at that funding.
Mm. Mary, I didn't give you much of a chance to say your thoughts. Do you want to share some of your thoughts on this?
Oh, I stepped away for a minute. I stepped
Mary,
away
you're
for,
breaking up.
I stepped away for a minute.
Oh,
What
did you say
asking?
did you say wait a minute? Is that what you said?
No. Mary, get closer to your computer because your headset doesn't have enough proximity. I'm thinking it's wireless.
Stepped away for a moment. I think you asked me my thoughts on closing the library and what we can do, and I'm just, is that right? Can you hear me?
You're
Just now.
really soft.
Get closer to your computer.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, but you're really soft. Why don't you go ahead?
I think you just asked me my thoughts on this, and I don't have anything specific to say. I'm really just listening in so I can get informed, because I want to put my energy into stopping this from happening. And I'm not skilled at all in any of this. And I'm not particularly understanding of city budget matters and stuff like that. But I just think it's a very wrong-headed thing to do.
Well, thank you for joining. Yeah, so kind of right now where the library is in this area called parking lot, which is basically things which the council will discuss later as to whether to keep it in or not. And as Karina mentioned, it's got bundled in together with about $1 million worth of other stuff, which makes it a little bit harder to get it approved because of that, because it is
Right.
bundled. Sorry, were you saying something?
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, and then and so on the 26th of May, this will have a further discussion. I tried to get it approved last Wednesday, but it was too tied up with everything else, and I couldn't get enough support to individually get it passed. But I know that a lot of people have written in about this. In fact, it's probably for the budget items, probably the most written in or called in item. And the support for this has been overwhelming. So I know.
Makes me happy.
Sorry,
All
Mary.
right.
I think you.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Mary. The audio is just really not good. I think you said something, but I really couldn't hear you. But okay. Anyway, so let's see. Karina, was there anything else that you wanted to show us on the screen?
No, I cannot share. I guess the question is, are the libraries appropriately budgeting for what it's going to cost them to do the additional cleaning?
Oh, that's actually a good question. I don't know, right? Actually, that's a good question. I don't know. Because there is going to be additional cleaning, you imagine, right? Even when, oh, actually, no, what they said is this. They said that they're going to leave the books aside for like 3 days so that any viruses kind of die off, right?
Right.
I think that's what they said. So I think in terms of material, that's the plan is that they'll actually someone checks it in, it kind of will sit around for like 3 days before other people are allowed to use it.
Right. There's stuff like the door handles, the
Oh,
bathrooms, perhaps making those off limits, etc.
yeah,
And
yeah.
the shelves, just all the workspaces.
Yeah, yeah. So I think it's a good point. There will probably be extra cleaning. The only thing they really talked about was the materials, but you're right. The door handles, other fixtures, right, will have to be probably wiped off fairly regularly, right?
And then the other thing is, historically the libraries have served as cooling centers during the hot weather.
Mm.
I don't know how that works if you're going to limit the number of people.
Yeah, yeah.
But as far as I know, west of El Camino, I don't know what other facilities the city of Palo Alto offers as cooling centers.
Well, yeah, I think this is the only library or community center on this side of Alma, right? So on this half of the city, right? I don't think there are any others. This not that I know. I asked the question, the staff said no, so I don't think so. Okay, good. Um, well, I wanted to thank you both for calling in and kind of give me your thoughts. And Trina, I'm amazed that you were able to listen to all of this. That's great. So if you have other ideas
Uh,
or suggestions, please let me know.
yeah, yeah. Al Bundy and I were on the Palo Alto Youth Council way back when we were growing up in Palo Alto.
Oh, wow, very
So
cool.
he was an architect. He spoke.
Very cool.
Great.
Okay, guys, thank you so much, and have a great Sunday.
Thank you.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, bye bye.